So today I'm here to talk about anterior stabilization surgeries of the shoulder. So normally when you hear about surgeries of the shoulder, you hear about rotator cuff surgeries, but I have actually had two anterior stabilization surgeries. So I had my right shoulder done back in 2010 when I was 16. I don't really remember much from that because it was a long time ago. But 2 years ago, I had my left shoulder done, so I'm going to talk more about that one because I remember it more. So the first time I dislocated my shoulder was probably in the year 2013. I was at dance and I was doing a push up, and so I went down, and when I came back up, my humerus decided to not come with me. So after that, I had dislocated my shoulder and I had to go to the hospital to get it relocated. So after that, I probably went to the hospital 3 or 4 more times because my shoulder would just dislocate all the time at dance. Never really a traumatic thing, but it would just slip out anteriorly all the time. So by that point, I had learned how to relocate it myself. It was very painful all the time just because I'd be washing my hair and my shoulder would dislocate, or even just putting it into a ponytail. So it got really annoying to the point where I finally was able to get a referral to go see my surgeon. So initially when I had my right shoulder done, I had to get sent for an MRI and all x-rays and everything before he even went in. But for my left surgery, because I have that history of instability in my shoulders, he just booked me straight for surgery and kind of went in blind and hoped for the best. So the day I showed up, the date of my surgery was July 23rd, 2015. So that day I showed up, and when he went inside, I had it done arthroscopically. So inside he had discovered that not only were my shoulders super lax, I had also torn my labrum. So on my little picture here, I have shaded in where the labrum is. So the labrum's right on the glenoid fossa where the humerus head attaches. So once he was in there, he used his little tools to clean that up. And that is what all the clicking and popping sounds I had been hearing every single time I'd move my shoulder. And mostly likely from the pain of constantly popping my shoulder back in. Also, the head of my humerus, so since every single time I'd pop it back in, it would hit my glenoid fossa, I had actually chipped a little bit of the bone on my humerus, but there's nothing he could really do to fix that until I let it heal. So because of that, I had my superior glenoid ligament, middle glenoid ligament, and inferior glenoid ligament stitched together. So basically what the surgeon had told me is my capsule and all my ligaments looked like this. So he took it and pushed it back together. So he stitched that all up. So the surgery was successful. Ever since then, I've only had one incident with my shoulder, but the rehab was very extensive. I spent 6 weeks in a sling and then about 6 months of physio after that, which I had a friend who had rotator cuff surgery done, and so to compare it to that, he was back to practicing hockey 6 weeks after his rotator cuff surgery. So that just shows the huge difference between rotator cuff surgery and a stabilization surgery. And even now, because the whole point of the stabilization surgery was to take away the laxity in my ligaments, I still do not have full range of motion. I've lost a little bit of flexion and I've lost a little bit of external rotation in my shoulder. But compared to my right side, which I had done many years ago, like 7 years ago now, I do gain that back, but it takes a really long time. So for my rehab, I started off by just being able to do pendulums for about the first 3 weeks, and then it was all active assisted. So I would literally sit there and just lift my arm with the opposite side until I was able to stretch it out. Because of that, I wasn't able to do any really muscular training until about 3 months after my surgery. So it was a very long process, but it was totally worth it, from going to having my shoulder dislocate almost every single day and the pain of having to relocate it every single time. And sometimes I'd have to leave it out until my muscles would calm down enough to allow me to relocate my shoulder. So it was a very painful and annoying process all the time. So going through all that pain of having the surgery and the 6 months of rehab, and still even to this day, not really being psychologically like ready. I still have issues with people touching my left shoulder because I get nervous that it's going to dislocate again because of what I went through beforehand. But now I'm able to play sports again. I can dance again. Can play baseball, and all of the things I loved to do before, I am now able to do again without having that constant need to relocate my shoulder and the constant pain of having it dislocate on me. So even though anterior shoulder surgery isn't really talked about or learned about, it is actually a major part of athletes and stuff. Especially for young athletes who have dislocated their shoulder more than once, they do become candidates to have this surgery to stabilize their shoulder. So I really enjoyed having my surgery, even though it sucked for a period of time, because it definitely saved my sports career. Thank you.